my name is Everly Davis. I'm the Educator and Student Engagement Coordinator here at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and welcome to today's virtual artist discussion. This program is one of several activities and programs included in our American Verses virtual festival, and I invite you to take a look at our webpage, riverfrontmuseum.org, to see the unique videos and activities created to inspire and uplift the stories of Terry Atkins, Mark Bradford, and Kerry James Marshall featured in the American Verses exhibition. I also invite you to see the exhibition in person this Friday, February 25th, during our culminating event, the Performing Arts Night, from 5 to 7 p.m. It's a free event with food, drinks, live music, and all of our galleries will be open, including our new spring exhibition. And I'd like to say thank you to Art Bridges for their generous contributions that made this festival possible. And thank you to all the viewers joining us for this discussion. Questions and comments are welcomed at the end of the discussion. At that time, I'll invite you to unmute yourself, or alternatively, if you don't wish to talk, I'd invite you to type the question in the chat and I'll ask the question for you. And now I'll turn it over to our facilitator for today's discussion, Peoria Riverfront Museum's very own lead curator, Bill Conger.
Thank you, Everly, and welcome everybody. I am so excited. I've been waiting all month for this to happen. We are joined today with some very important artists, creative souls, and impacting leaders in the fine arts in Illinois and beyond. We have currently an exhibition at Peoria Riverfront Museum made possible by Art Bridges of Bentonville, Arkansas. Crystal Bridges, of course, the Alice Walton founded Museum of American Art, has helped us curate an exhibition called American Verses, which really is, in essence, the culmination of three African-American male artists, Kerry James Marshall, Mark Bradford, and Terry Atkins. We have an entirety of the exhibition. We've had 8 works in the show, but each artist is represented singularly. And one of the things that I noticed about these particular artists that we were featuring is their connection to history and to literature. And the 3 artists that I'm presenting you today similarly work in those realms as well. And I thought it might be a fantastic moment to get them together, chat about their process and their histories and their experience. And you are going to be so much the better for it for listening today. Let me introduce who's with us, okay? Our first artist, she's an artist and writer, actually. Debra Hand is a Chicago-based sculptor, painter. She's also a writer. She she's actually in some pretty interesting collections, and I'd be remiss to leave them out. Some of the people who own Ms. Hand's work are President Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Babyface, the actor Common, the late Cicely Tyson, Dr. Winnie Mandela, Dr. Maya Angelou. That's a pretty small collection career. Her most, I think, probably her most, I guess, historically connected project is one from 2012, which we'll talk about later, a bronze statue of Paul Laurence Dunbar, the poet. Thank you for being with us, Deborah. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And we also have Sahai Heber, who is also Chicago-based and a Northwestern graduate and School of the Art Institute of Chicago graduate. Her work is, I would say, multidisciplinary. She will tell us about that as we get into the discussion. She is a playwright. I would dare say she's a multimedia artist in her own realm, creating performances and plays and on, and some of the concepts that connect Sahai to the art world are issues of African Creole culture, race and gender, disability and inclusion. And Sahai, how are you today? Oops. Maybe,
I'm great, thank you.
There you are.
Thanks for having me here
Of course,
today.
of
Glad to be
course.
here.
And certainly not least, but the last on our list is the inimitable Preston Jackson, who also has a significant Chicago reputation as well as nationwide. He also happens to be an adopted son of Peoria, Illinois, where our Fair Museum lies here. And he has a studio right next to us, as a matter of fact. And his bio is, of course, very long, but suffice it to say that along with having his work exhibited across the United States, he was named the 1998 laureate of Lincoln Academy in Illinois, and is currently professor emeritus at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where he taught sculpture and other fine arts for many years. His works are throughout the country, throughout Illinois. Give you a couple examples: Cahokia Mounds, Alton, Illinois, with an incredible sculpture of Miles Davis. Here in Peoria, Illinois, a life-size, bit larger than life-size sculpture of Richard Pryor. He has done monumental memorials, such as the 1908 Springfield, Illinois race riot, life-size image of Jean-Baptiste Pointe de Sable in Peoria. It goes on and on. We are featuring Preston for a number of reasons. First of all, we just love him. And secondly, because we have a very important work that Preston has promised the Peoria Riverfront Museum. It's a work that began over 25 years ago called From Bronzeville to Harlem. And it is a sprawling steel and bronze cityscape that combines various areas of the country and explores the Great Migration that saw the influx of many African Americans from the southern states to the north, fleeing all sorts of unfair work practices and Jim Crow laws, etc. This work is a masterpiece, and we are so thrilled and happy to have it at the museum. We will have Preston on anytime to talk about it. So this is going to be a great discussion. Preston, thanks for coming today. How are you?
Just fine, thank you. Thanks for having me, and you know, allowing me to be a part of this. This is not only fun, but I get to see the faces of the people that I admire.
Well, I can tell you it's reciprocal. So let's jump in. The works that, the works I think that were in American Verses that bring us all together are really connected to history, of course, but also they're connected to other areas of fine arts, particularly literature. All three of the artists in American Verses utilize aspects of the written word or prior masterpieces of language. Whether it be Mark Bradford's use of Greek mythology or Terry Atkins' use of Richard Wright's very famous Native Son novel, or Thornton Wilder's play Our Town, which Kerry James Marshall used as influence. So I would like to just kind of maybe jump right in and ask Deborah to start us off and tell us, are there any commonalities in the approach of using other art forms such as literature or music, et cetera, to build your own language, your own work, your own voice, and kind of remake and reconceptualize those pieces?
For me, personally, and it seems to be true of the artists, all of the artists here, we are mediums in and of ourselves. And it seems to be true of these other artists that from head to toe, we are just artists. We create. And so for me, it's all one thing: writing, painting, sculpting, poetry. It's all one thing. It's all, I'm always using the same medium of me to explore something that I hope will inspire others. So I just, if you think about the Renaissance, or you think about artists like Michelangelo, or these artists were architects and writers and scientists. There's not a limit, and that's so important for young people to know. I'm not really, I am an artist, but there are so many genres of creativity that come under that one title. And it's so important for young people to understand, we sort of live in a world where we're funneled into picking something, pick one thing, but you don't have to pick one thing. In fact, if you pick one thing, you will go through life without ever knowing some of the magic power that was granted to you upon your arrival. And I think my own story sort of echoes this, because I was in my 30s before I knew I was a visual artist. I just, was helping my son with a school project. And I discovered, he had to paint a picture. And I discovered how much I loved just that activity of sitting there at the kitchen table with him. I loved it to the point where when he got up to go to school the next day, I was still sitting there. I mean, I had discovered something that had never been a part of my life. And I always think of these words. I say them to myself even. I looked at these colors I had laid down. For the first time, I had laid down some colors that resonated with me. It didn't just all turn to mud. And I looked at that and I said to myself, this is not nothing. This is not nothing. And I say those words even to myself now. When I stumble into things, you have to be able to recognize those moments where you have stumbled into something that is not nothing. There's something there, there's more there for you. Don't just leave it. There's something more there for you. And I knew that passion, between that passion and that little crude little artwork I created on notebook paper, I just said to myself, this is not nothing. So that's almost like being able to identify that you've entered a path. There's a path there for you. But like I said, I could have gone through life and never discovered art. So it's very, very important to understand that you can do you're the same you, no matter what you choose to do. But there are so many things that young people can choose to do. So don't get caught up on bouncing the basketball and think that's the end of your life. I don't care if you become Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has to do something with his life. He's retired now. He has Yeah.
Sahai, you have integrated works. I know certainly you have used George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion as inspiration, and used that as a place of kind of takeoff to other areas, creating other works of art or another major work of art from that. Is there anything you can add?
I
I'm
would
sorry.
love to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry I could been here.
Can you, I just want to make sure my internet was a little unstable. Absolutely. I think my earliest memories are walking around my house with a pencil and just writing everything down. And I was just such a bad girl. One day I wrote on the walls and my mother was like, what's wrong with you? You know, but I needed to write this poem and it was just coming out. And I was like, I'll clean the wall later. So I think in many ways, my work is a quilt, it's a braid. I bring in, because of my disability issues and working as a disability rights advocate, that has opened up my purview when I think about work. So I don't think about work, you know, in flat dimensions. I actually think about the work that I stage as painting. So the stage is my canvas and I'm painting. I have, you know, I have my rectangular box and I am playing with my paints and my colors are, my acrylics and my oils are sound, they're movement, they're text that might run across the stage. I think I was struck by how much visual art influences my work. And that could be the work of Stephen Halpern, the landscape architect, Preston Jackson, and certainly Kerry James Marshall's work. And increasingly, I will tell you, thank you so much for introducing me to Terry. And, you know, I'd known Mark Bradford's work, but I think that the Black experience is so huge, it's so broad that we can't tell it using just one, you know, in one way or using, you know, one medium. It really is an amalgam. And that's what I related to in the work. I was actually struck by some of the commonalities. We were all responsive to Invisible Man. It was, you know, I went back and did some extra research and noticed that it was deeply moving for Bradford, if I'm not mistaken, as well as Adkins. And of course, Kerry James Marshall has referenced that book.
Well, fellas,
yeah, and in conversations that we've had, but I just am struck at the unity that Tsehaye talks about, because it really is this palette, many flavors, many colors that comes together. And I don't want to dominate the discussion, but I want to echo what Deb said. You don't know what you have. And I think there was this potentiality that Terry talked about. I'll find the exact word. He talked about potential disclosure, and I was just blown away because that is how I work. I just keep files and boxes of pictures and images. The dramaturg does not have to work when it comes to my work because I have that, but that sits until it just explodes. And I found that was very remarkable to see that was a similar process that Adkins used. So lots of connections. And of course, Preston. When I get stuck with my writing, Deb, I go to the Art Institute. I go online and get art. And that's a process. For every play that I write, I have chosen a piece of art for every character. There is a piece of art, and it doesn't matter if they're from different eras, but it's what strikes me, what just makes me go, oh, and that's the response I had when I saw Preston's work. I was gobsmacked. I didn't have the words, and I was like, how does he do that? So.
Preston, you've been talked about a little bit here. What about yourself? And I already know kind of the answer, but can you talk to us a little bit about the impact of other works of art and history and how it impacts what you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. You know, have you ever felt that you've been in something too long, or you've been around too long, TOO, or you know too much, or you're too stupid about? But I'm saying I'm filled up to the brim in so much, especially social issues, social commentary, things that things that I don't feel good about, things that I'm overwhelmed about, things that I mean, like the music of certain people, like Greg and Bradford Marcellus and people like that. But I'm at a point in my life, I'm overflowing, and I don't know whether to be thankful or to be pissed off. It's like there's so much stuff. I mean, I was born at a time when people were taken to gas chambers. I mean, I was on the earth. I was a little baby, but it's like I was born at a time when Europe was coming apart. People that walked the earth, such as the Klansmen, and Hitler was still alive. Or it's just that there's so much to say, and there's so much to be emotional about, whether you accept it or you want to or not, whether it's something that you automatically express yourself, or it's just in your being, meaning that it's there and your response, you're not conscious of it. It's like someone upset, a child crying very loud and moving his hands and shouting out or swatting something. Like the people in the church, the feelings that there's a spiritual thing out there, but you can't be seen or touched. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. In my art, you'll notice there are numerous paintings. I can put something on Facebook every day, for 2 years, and I don't have to repeat myself. That's how much work that exists. And even now, as I speak, I feel a little bit guilty by calling myself an artist. I don't know what to think of myself as, where I belong as far as being involved in art making. I think so many changes have taken place that I don't know how to describe it, and therefore I don't know how to title it.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly your works do not exist in one realm. You're a painter, you're a sculptor, you are a musician, and certainly the breadth of the work, the subject matter that you've taken on is also vast. And so would you say that you continue a certain path, or are you kind of always moving outward and taking on new territory in your work? How would you answer that?
Well, let's see. Here's some more examples. It's like I'm at the place where you better get it now, or you better do it now, because the doors are going to close. I don't trust life, especially the art academics. I mean, I existed in Chicago for what, 25 years, over on Dearborn in my little condo.
Oops. Preston may have frozen. Okay. Well, I think Preston is frozen. We'll move. Let's move on, and we'll get him back up. Some areas that also kind of cross into the works of American Verses are inclusivity, which I know Preston talks about a lot. His Bronzeville to Harlem work is a testament to it. I wonder if our artists could jump in with any ideas about how inclusivity plays a part of your work and part of the practice, and what is the goal, what is the hope at the end of the journey.
Well, a section of our discussion it was just not heard. I played because of technical difficulties.
Whoops.
So I'll try to reconnect to what before. I'm at a disadvantage, you know, especially when it comes to the technical things. I don't want to sound like, you know, I'm a pessimistic artist that doesn't think that there is a future or anything.
Well,
but you get to the place what you think of it. Like the day gone by, I don't practice my guitar or work out, you know.
Preston, on my end, you're a little, the connection
It's
is
like,
not good. Can you reconnect for us and we'll pick up where you were. Deborah or Sahai, can either of you speak to the concept of inclusivity?
Well, I think it happens on different levels, to be quite honest. But what kicked it off for me was coming out of a disability where I used a wheelchair for a year and was paralyzed for a period of time. So when I came out of that experience, mercifully, what struck me, I was in middle graduate school, and what struck me was that if I were in my wheelchair, I couldn't get close to a painting, or if I saw a piece of sculpture like Preston's from the cotton fields to the battlefields, I didn't have access to it. So I was already in that mode. As you rightfully state, I am really a multimedia artist, and I use visuals on stage. I play with light, I play with sound. You will always see my work. I'm always signing because I know a little bit of sign language.
Mm-hmm.
So my characters, I think that the American theater should basically reflect the American population, the polity. And that means that some people are hard of hearing, some people have vision issues, excuse me, and some people are not from the art world. So in terms of accessibility, we're also breaking down some of it, not to be pedantic about it, but how do we, you know, as a kid, I can't even remember when was the first time I went to an art museum, probably at school, but I also grew up in a college town. So that was what we did. You know, I grew up with nerd parents. So we went to lectures, we went to, you know, just amazing things. So I think, and I also come from a place where English wasn't my first language. It wasn't the first language of my family, but French Creole was. So I think at an early age, I endeavored to find ways to bring the art that I was making, you know, to connect with the people that I thought I was making it for and with.
Interesting. Deborah, do you have any, do you have any thoughts on inclusivity, how it plays in your work or your language?
Well, are we, I know that the young people are not going to be here today, but is this conversation still geared for them, or is this grown folks talking, or what? So I just know what.
I would say, yes, some youngsters will be listening in, but I would think that what you have to say is still pretty important in that regard.
You know, inclusive, I won't get this word right now, something is not coming out. But it is, you know, we've really reached a point in this whole wide world where we are just on such a path of destruction. I mean, there's so much anger in the world. We have to talk. We have to come together. We have to listen to each other. I've listened to people who I thought I would never listen, you know, and throughout this pandemic. I just, you know, whatever it will take to help change this world and change myself enough that I'm open enough to have the conversations. And I don't consider myself a closed off person, because I really have had a very simple philosophy for a very long time. I can love whoever can love me. Now, after that, I just can't be responsible. But I am certainly capable of loving anybody who can love me. So however that, whatever form, race, whatever that comes in, you know, it really is about humanity. But of course, we have all of these other things going on in the world. You know, we are not, like, if the people who want to make the world better are not well identified. And we are surprised when we see, like, the Obama election night. You know, it comes to a great as a great surprise to Black people that, oh, okay, you know, there are people of all races that want to do better, but we get on our different sides of this discussion and have our discussions. But if, I promise you, if Black people could have solved racism by now, trust me, we would have.
Yeah.
We are very, 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 you know, just overwhelmed by this whole subject. You know, sometimes you watch the news and I said aloud to myself one day, watching the news recently, and it was such an act of injustice. And I said to myself, how much more can they take?
Wow.
And in that day, of course, I'm included, but I was thinking about young people, because I wake up every morning thinking about how can I help them be more inspired about this world, and how can I help them to use their gifts. And I mean, young people of every race, you know, they are like looking at us. We're the adults. We're supposed to have all this together for them.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be handing them a world. And instead, we're handing them chaos and garbage-filled oceans and all of this kind of stuff. They are looking at us. They are looking at these trials that, you know, and some of them have galvanized and said, you know, we're not going to wait for you guys to get it together. Grown folks have not done enough. And I'm so proud of the ones who have come together and you know, of all races, and said, we're gonna stand up. We're gonna work together, you know, to do something more about this. And even though that has happened in every generation of races of all, you know, of people of all races throughout every generation, even during slavery, the abolitionists or whatever, we've always had people who were willing to go against everything that their, you know, cultural group was doing to say, to go with right. And so we, you know, young people have really stepped up to the plate to say we need a different America than you guys have handed us. And I'm really, really, you know, proud of them. But but there are also, and these are the ones I so worry about, they're also the ones who give up and who say, you know, the march is not enough. This is not going to change. It hasn't changed. And they have lost hope. And there is not a more dangerous thing walking the face of the earth than a young person who has no hope and no fear. Yeah. And we all have to, you know, we all are seeing that. So definitely, if we don't come together, then how can this get worse?
It's beautiful.
I mean, you know, we've touched the bottom. Right. We really have. So right. Inclusivity, and purposely in my sculptures, I don't necessarily approach social issues. But if you can see from that piece idea for this show, it doesn't mean that I'm not a social, I'm not an activist, but I'm an artist from head to toe. The things I want to specifically tell you about race relations or social issues, I want to specifically tell you that. I want to tell you every word of how I feel about that. It's like Preston's work. When I first encountered his work, it blew me away because it takes you there. For anybody who thinks that, oh, that happened a long time ago and it's unimportant now, it's going to always be important. It's going to always, I can't come into somebody's home and sell their family for my own benefit. Like, we still have families. We should be able to draw empathy, great empathy and great lessons from the fact that that happened in history. And Preston's work has a way of taking you inside of those moments, and it makes you more responsible. As a human person, it makes you say, wow, this is what this, cultural group encountered. This is what our ancestors encountered. This is what it's like. He takes you into those, not the worlds, but into the lives of those characters. And so I saw Julianne's Garden, and I walked through that show, and I came out, and it's one of those things, like, a lot of artists will have this reaction, like some young trumpeter or hear Miles Davis and decide that they don't need to play the trumpet anymore. That's how that work made me feel. Like, why am I sculpting if this dude is in the world? But because his work is truly about that. But the reason why I should also sculpt is because we don't all need to be on the same topic at the same time at all times. Like, someone needs to give us inspiration. Someone needs to just allow us to be together and enjoy some art. Someone needs to remind us of the past. Someone needs to inspire us toward a new future. Someone needs to just bring us to the same room so that we can talk. Like, we need art to do all of these things. And we need everybody who can perform these things through art or not through art to help.
Yeah. Sahai, did you have something to add? I think I saw you.
I would like to say what struck me about each of the artists is their, Preston's work, Mark's work, Terry's work, and Kerry James Marshall's work in terms of inclusivity. I was specifically talking about physical ADA type inclusivity, but what the three artists did for me in looking at the body of work is how the works talk to each other, how they talk with each other, and how sometimes there just aren't words. Like, in each of my plays, there's just a blank spot in the middle of a play. I don't know when that's going to happen. And that's one of those potential disclosure things that Terry talked about. There's a point when the actor can't say anything else, and I leave that blank, and the actor has to make that choice in the moment to either make up dialogue to bridge or to be silent. So there are these choices about how we communicate with each other. And I found Terry's work really talking to Kerry James's work and Mark's work, talking with Preston's work in this quadra conversation that really blew me away when I looked at the four artists as a whole. And the final thing I want to say to see the floor is that there's so much courage in each of these works. There's courage of convention, there's courage of craft, where each of their works go in their individual, ways and paths that each artist got there is phenomenal. I think the hope that you talk about is something that just strikes me when I look at these works. I could not find the language to write about the Black anarchist, Lucy, the woman who passed for other than Black, Lucy Parsons. I saw Preston's sculpture and I was through. Do you hear me? So I could take that picture to the dramaturg and say, this is it. I can't describe this woman. There's a point when language fails. And I think these three works are so explicit in their processes, in the way that they state their Blackness, their maleness, their humanness, their Americanness. It's just refreshing to me. It's unapologetic. And I think young people that you're talking about, I don't have any paint. I don't have a paintbrush. Well, some people will say, well, Mark Bradford just blew that one out the water. Preston blows that out the water. Because of the work that he makes from many different places. And of course, Kerry James Marshall, what I wanted to point out was that when you see the paintings, right, with the stark Blackness and how they just pop out at you, you don't see what's behind those. So to be able to see his sketches was very powerful for me. I took a class of students to see that work at the MCA, our town. And as we tried to move through the pieces, one young lady was at the same painting 45 minutes later. She was just standing there.
Wow.
Just standing there. She could not move. I said, honey, she said, no, Miss Abby, I said, it's okay. 45 minutes later, she was standing at that same piece and wiping tears away. 20 years of therapy might not have gotten to that point. 8 books read, degrees, but that one piece of artwork did that for her. And I think that's what the works do collectively for many of us who are trying to find language, and where language fails. And not to say that visual art is a poor second cousin to that, but we're working together on this unity that you referred to, Deb.
Wow, that's beautifully stated. And Preston, again, takes a concept to another level. As I'm listening to you, I'm reminded that Preston's work, from Bronzeville to Harlem, was adapted to the Peoria Riverfront Museum. And Preston, please speak to the idea of inclusion as you created all sorts of other. I know that your work was replete with Jewish Americans, Italian Americans, African Americans, of course. But you added so many other ethnic groups and American groups to your project after it came to the museum. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of inclusion? Oops, you may be muted, Preston. I think you're muted. Preston, you are muted.
Hello. Can you? Well, anyway, like you were saying, I tried to explore I'm constantly dealing with the question of what makes us human, and me?
I cannot hear you, Press. I think you're breaking up a little bit.
He just unmuted.
Okay. Yeah,
and maybe stay in one place. When you move it, your phone takes a lot of information when you move.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of my subjects, especially, the Bronzeville to Harlem piece, I tried to include neighborhoods from various places, definitely the Black neighborhood, because I'm Black. This is it's something that I know, something that I feel. It's easy for me to deal with it. But the main question that I want answered is why is it not that we cannot come together, as human beings, whereas we know that deep in our hearts that it's just the tone, the color of the skin, or maybe something culturally, but it's all the same. We all experience the same emotions and all of that. We were raised by parents who loved us, and we've gone through very similar experiences. So I feel a little bit slighted, and that could be just my imagination, or it's just something very personal, that so much negativity has happened during my time. And I feel that, my time on this earth is very important. Why can't I smile? Why can't I go to Jackson, Mississippi and walk anywhere I like? And, I was placed here at some very stupid, damning times, and I feel cheated. There's a lot of anger in my work. That's probably why a lot of the Chicago area galleries did not accept my work. 20 years, 25 years or so looking for gallery representation, and told I should go somewhere, or I should try this gallery, knowing that, which meant, that I should try a gallery, a Black gallery, and I would be more comfortable. But anyway, there's a lot of anger in my work, and I don't like living that way. I don't like being that way. Well, most of all, I don't enjoy the burden. I want to relax my shoulders. I want to sit down and smile, a true smile. I want to be able to say that, I feel good today. I felt good all my life. I feel good about this. I feel good about tomorrow. But look what's going on. Look what's going on now. Look at the politics. Here we are revisiting an era, a time, Hitler, people like that, was on here. These people are alive and well again. And the same thing is happening again. So it's a good thing I'm doing art. Otherwise, I'd be crazy as a bat. So it's a good thing that I have art to pour these feelings into. But okay, this is a little off the subject, but I want to thank Deborah, and Sahai for their kind words, and I'll always be connected to you all. So get ready.
Preston, very eloquent. As we are kind of closing in on an hour here, I'd like to present another topic for you all to respond to before we close out. And Preston, you very eloquently bring up the tumultuous time that we live in. I don't know if there are times that are not tumultuous, but we certainly have our share of very unique problems. I believe it's probably okay to say that our youngsters listening and the youth of our culture will also have extreme problems and obstacles to deal with. All of you on this call are no strangers to obstacles. That's part of what makes you great, and it's part of why you're here. I wonder if you could, in part, referring to your work with things that maybe you had to overcome in your careers, do you have any advice? Do you have any words of wisdom for the young people who might be listening regarding working in the world, particularly as a creative person, with the aforementioned obstacles that are throughout life, really? Deborah, would you like to start?
Life, I would say to young people that life it changes. It changes from day to day. And especially when you're young, somebody who is 10 years old, who feels like their ears might be too big, or, hates school, in a very short amount of time, 2 to 3 years, you become another person every 2 to 3 years until you get to, maybe in your 20s. And so, you will change and life will change. And there are hard parts, there are dark periods, there are hard periods, but it's built into human nature that you will always smile again, no matter what you're going through. I don't care how hard it is and how dark it is. It is built. It's a magnificent thing about life that you will always smile again. You will always, like I think in 1968 was such a hard year for me. And I would have been the age of, some of the, teenagers that are maybe, in 8th grade or a freshman or, a sophomore, whatever. I had a very hard time in my youth simply because life was going along fine. And then in 1968, a series of bombs just were dropped on my life. And it blew up the way I knew the world. And I know that a lot of young people are struggling with the same subject, because you think life and the world is one thing, and then suddenly you meet some form of disillusionment, and you have to put yourself back together and figure out how to be in the world, and how you're going to be in the world. And the important thing to know is that you're going to smile again, even if you're going through the loss of somebody, if you're going through self-esteem issues, if you're going through bullies or whatever. You just have to have that one nugget in your hand at all times to know in your darkest moment, life repairs itself, and you will smile again. I don't care if somebody breaks your heart, you will love again. You will know fulfillment again. You will eat, no matter how hard life is, it still comes with moments of love, of sunshine, of fulfillment, but the thing that you need to do is, if you're not living, then you what are you doing? You're dying. And you feel that. You feel like you're wasting away. So what do you do to live? Life is just not this, it's yes, life is complicated, it's all of these things, but there's really a very simple definition for what life is. And life is one thing. It's a turn. This is your turn. You get a turn. That's it. I get a turn. You get a turn. Preston's got a turn. And we get an opportunity to create a story. Each of us has an opportunity to create a story. And I want to say that try to create a story that you're proud of. Even when, you're going to mess up, you're going to have moments where you do dumb things. You're going to have things that you wish you could, just hide your face forever from, especially with social media and all of that nonsense. But find a passion, find something that you can do that you need no one else to do. And I don't mean pull away from the world and never see other people again, but you have to have a passion, or 2 or 3. I don't care if you paint in your spare time, you write in your spare time, you're a reader, you sew, you skateboard, whatever it is, find something that makes you want to get up in the morning. Because in finding what it's like to be passionate about something, you find so many other things about yourself. And you find a place where you can grow. Even if you skateboard, I don't think if your passion is skateboarding, I don't think it's no less important than my passion is art. Art is my learning ground for me. Art is where I find out how determined I am, how stubborn I am, how willing I am to take risk, how quick I am to give up, how quick I am to become frustrated. Art is a learning ground for me. And we have to all have somewhere where we go to challenge ourselves and also to pour ourselves, just a place. If like Preston said, if it wasn't for his art, I would be very afraid, because where is he going to put all of this knowledge, of what our ancestors have gone through and what we continue to go through? You have to have a place to pour. You have to have a place to go that can pull your mind off of these intense subjects. And this is how you manage yourself. That's one of the things you have to do in the world. You have to learn to manage yourself, manage your mind. Like I want every young person that will hear this, I want them to do one thing. I want them, the next time they get ready to go on social media, like at the beginning of a day, a new day, I want them to ask themselves, how do I feel right at this moment? Do I feel good? Do I feel fine? I'm inspired to probably get up and go to the park or whatever. And then go on social media for about 5 minutes and then ask yourself, how do I feel right now? And if the answer is you don't feel better, then let that be your guide. Don't be so quick to wake up in the morning and connect with social media, because that's not your life. That's everybody showing off, everybody trying to, show that they had the best time, the best outfit. It's that's fun.
Yeah.
But that's not your life. Your life is when you get up in the morning and you decide that, hey, I love my skateboard. I'm going to go out for an hour, or I love to dance or whatever it is. I'm going to write some raps today. That part is your life. The things that you're passionate about. And you have to find that part of yourself. And when you find that part of yourself, it will challenge you. You'll give something back. It'll challenge you some more. And in that way, you will grow in all areas, not just in skateboarding. You will learn determination in all areas. That's something that I will say. Just find what you are passionate about. Find something, and let that thing lead you into yourself. And when you discover all the things that it's going to teach you, that's going to automatically take you other places.
Well said. Beautiful. Sahai, what can you add?
I'm going to take it a little granular in terms of the obstacles. One thing that I want to speak very practically. I finished undergrad at nearly 40. I dropped out of school, stopped out of school a couple of times. I entered graduate school over 60 years old. And I was really delighted to hear of Mark Bradford's trajectory, also being a hairdresser. And then we are scripting our lives, right? And what I would want young people, I'd want anybody to know that you can and will follow your passion. But it's not willy-nilly. We live in many ways very disciplined lives. We have to create the world that we want to live in. And I'll give you an example. when I went back to school, I had a new baby, and I thought, oh my God, I'll never finish school. And one small thing that I did was to shift my schedule. So I would stay up and do my homework from midnight to 6 to 5 in the morning. I'd take a nap and get up and go. And that schedule really helped me years later when I was working, arts management jobs and so forth and so on. And I didn't have time to write. And I thought, what do you mean you don't have time to write? And then I read about Toni Morrison, who got up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock, to write for 2 hours before she went to her job as an editor at Random House. And I thought, oh, you chump, you're whining about you don't have time to do this. And just hearing about that artist's work, I get up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock every morning. I'm in front of the computer by 5 o'clock with a cup of coffee. And, I had to give up that hour of sleep to some people, but I didn't give it up. I just shifted it in a different way. So I think what that creative mind will do for you is to constantly bring solutions to those practical issues. I have to fix the kids' dinner. I have to do a costume for school. I had a teenager and a middle schooler. My husband is a musician. He was touring internationally. I didn't know, which way was up at times, but I will tell you, when you look at the breadth and depth of the Black story in this life that we're in, I had to wake up one day and go, well, wait, what am I whining about? My ancestors didn't have a paintbrush. They didn't have a computer. Get busy. And I came from a place, where, Preston, I understand your anger. I grew up in a place where there was physical harm. I was the kid who found the Klan cross burning in my front yard. My family's home was bombed. We were attacked physically by a lot of, different people in different arenas. But the one thing I'd like to say, and I want to honor my parents right now. My parents taught us never to hate anybody. Never, ever. It was a hate the sin, but not the sinner. And that gave me permission in some ways to have an expansive palette when I sat down to write. My mother was trained as a classical musician. So I grew up listening to, she was also a piano teacher. I can't play the piano. So I grew up listening to all of the sounds of my youth. I grew up listening to boogie woogie. I grew up listening to jazz and folk music. And so they didn't have a discrimination. There was no apartheid as far as their music was concerned. So I want to come back to this whole thing about how art just connects you, right? So I could go into one room and I could hear Fats Domino. In the next room, I could hear Professor Longhair. And then I could turn around, my mother might be playing Haydn or Chopin on the piano. And I thought, what a crazy, weird family I have, but Preston, it's in your work. This is all America. We don't come in one flavor, one style. We don't do things one way. And that's the thing, I think the gift of the arts, that it's multifocal, there are multiple solutions, multiple ways to solve an issue. So that's the one thing I would want people, especially young people, to understand. We're solution driven and we're action driven. You talk about social media, it's important for people to stay connected. Young people, the phone is an extension of the personality and all of that. We had a different way. So I think everything, there's a balance, but I think if the thing to drive home is that there's a solution here, whether I'm befuddled by a plot point, or I do dabble a little bit, I do paint and draw. So if I'm standing there trying to figure out which pencil to use, and trust me, I am like, I couldn't show you my sketches, but they are my process when I write. So they will find a process that will write them out of the angst or paint them out of the angst. And I'm not equating art with therapy, although my art is therapeutic and the root word of art is therapy, right? So they have all of these incredible tools that they can use to build the world that they want to live in. And that's what each of these artists showed me, that they didn't just take it on the chin, you know, and they found beauty in small things like in papers. Right.
Beautiful. Incredible. Preston.
Mhm. Oh, I think I've said enough. I certainly have learned. I mean, you know, I'm constantly learning things, you know, and you know, the thing about it, like I said before, you're either on a mountain or a deep hole, you know, but life still revolves around you. So it's not so much about me. And I think that the whole idea of what human beings should do, I mean, there's some clarity here. You know, I'm very thankful that I feel a little bit wiser, and that's through figuring out the fact that we're nothing. I mean, we're too small. I mean, you know, if you put your body, physical body, against a mountain or the Mississippi River or out in space somewhere, you become nothing the further you come from something that you think is something, you know. There's some very strange and wonderful answers coming to me from questions that I've had since I was a child. And I'm happy to be an artist because that gives me an opportunity to unshamefully express these things and to say it. And now at this ripe age, you know, I can say it without being embarrassed, you know. It's like when I have a conversation with someone, I don't have to pull back my words or anything like that. Well, it's the same thing on canvas. I don't have to hold back anymore, you know. But if the holding or giving is not making a change or a difference in the world, you know, then you know, everything's become small and one color again or one shape again. Maybe that's the answer, and I should be thankful that I can see life as a blur, you know, something that even time itself doesn't seem to matter. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can tell you that those who have been watching, those who have been listening, those who will watch and listen, I don't know how to really explain the kind of information that you've been given today. I've learned something. I know that everyone tuned in has learned something. This is an incredible moment for the museum to be able to host something like this, present your points of view, your amazing articulation of your past, of your process. And I personally just want to thank all three of you so much for participating in this. Debra Hand, Sahai Heber, and Preston Jackson. I hope we can work together again in the future. And I want to thank all three of you profoundly from the Peoria Riverfront Museum for being with us.
Well, thank you for hosting this.
Of course. Everly Davis, are there any questions, or what should we do?
Well, seeing no questions in the chat, I was going to, yeah, go for it, Sahai.
Would you blast again the event on Friday so that we're reminded about it, please? And I'm assuming we have to get tickets in advance.
There's a registration for it, yes. And I was going to go ahead and highlight that at the end as well. No, but thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify one thing as I was speaking earlier, because I don't want any young person to perceive me as saying, no, Sonny, don't go on social media, it's evil. You know, that's not what I'm saying. What I want to make sure they understand that I'm saying is that learn how to make social media serve you.
Yeah.
And in searching for things that you are passionate about, I mean, because you have the internet and because you have the tools you do, you can begin to become anything you dream. If you want to be a surgeon, there are YouTube videos you can start watching. There are groups you can join that will talk about internships or talk about schools or talk about little clubs. So you can create the world, you can begin to create the world around you that is much different from the one being presented to you, let's say through media or through, your Facebook page or whatever it is. So that's my point. Use those tools so that they serve you and so that they help you find your passion. And when you start to connect with your passion for things, you will connect with yourself. You'll learn the things you need about yourself to do other things.
Absolutely. Thank you, and very well put. So I am going to wrap things up for us. And I want to say thank you for everyone that attended today's virtual artist discussion, and a huge thank you again to each and every one of you artists, Debra Hand, Sahai Heber, and Preston Jackson, for spending time with us. I know that myself and everyone watching, I think it's safe to say that we've gleaned nuggets of wisdom, insight, and inspiration for us to go on. And thank you, Sahai, for reminding me. Be sure to check out the American Verses Virtual Festival events and programs at PeoriaRiverfrontMuseum.org under the Classes and Programs tab. And I hope to see you in person on Friday, February 25th from 5 to 7 for our Performing Arts Night. It's our culminating event. Again, it's free and open to all, and we hope to see you there. Be sure to register to reserve your spot online. Thanks again to Art Bridges for making this program possible. And I want to say thank you to museum members and Visionary Society members for their continued support. Thank you, everyone. And until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.